There we go. Just pass it around.
We need this back.
Hold on a second. Just walk around me. Well, while we're waiting, why don't we go ahead and take a quiz? All right, so remember, I know all the tricks. I know about taking a piece of chewing gum and taking it out of a wrapper, writing the answers on the chewing gum, and then when you're taking the quiz, strategically take that piece of chewing gum out, read, eat, and then eat the evidence. I got you. You didn't get one. He's probably got two. He does have two. All right, if you kind of pass those to the center and then up, that'd be great. And here we go. This was rated one of the top Nike commercials of all time.
We need this back.
It's just a ball.
No, it's rounder.
Weapon!
So a commercial to sell products with no product really emphasized. Isn't that interesting? So it's Baylor Day. Right, so I got my Baylor mask, I got my Baylor shirt, I've got my green Baylor shoes that my son gave me, and my Baylor Bear socks. So, sick 'em Bears. We got a week till football starts. So when I was at Baylor, orientation, they taught us exactly how to stand, exactly how to raise your hand, exactly how to shake it, when, who to watch for the signal, where to come down, and how to do it. So 65,000 people in the stadium do sick and bears all at once. Why? Because they have a product. And they want that commitment to the product. So years later, we'll still buy the product, right? So they want my money, right? And so AU, we would never do anything like that at AU. Long live Anderson, right? We're trying to inculcate you, because of course, you know, I need one of you in about 15 years to give money for the Spencer Chair of Marketing, right? About $2 million. That'd be great. Looking forward to one of you really making it and presenting that. Hopefully I'll be dead. Man, my wife will cry, my kids will cry, and you know, you can, well, he was such a great professor. You know, time lets you forget things. So, products. Today we look at products. Thought for the day. You know, it's a lot of times you can get confused about what a product is. Even the most important product there is, heaven. So some people think that you get God's product by working your way there. Do good works. Andrew Carnegie built hospitals all over the world to try to atone for his sins. Do you come through Mary or the saints? This is the biggest Baptist heresy I know, that the way you become a Christian, the way to go to heaven is you ask Jesus in your heart. None of these are found in the Bible. Let's pray. Father, we pray that you'll help us to understand what a product is today, so that we'll be better at marketing and better at understanding business. So we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Product. So we like mixes, right? We have the marketing mix. What's the marketing mix? You just a quiz on it. Product, price, place, and promotion, right? So the product mix. The product mix entails three different things. It has width, length, and depth. The width of a product is the number of product lines that are offered. A product line is a category. So, for example, let me, sounds like I need to mute everybody. Mute all. There we go. So, the width. So, we take Ford. Ford has different lines. They have trucks, they have SUVs, they have crossovers, and they used to have 4 or 5 different kinds of small cars, but they don't make those anymore, right? And so this is the first time in history that they've done that. No, actually, it's the second time in history. Back in the 70s, they decided everybody wanted really big vehicles, and they only made big vehicles. And then the Arab oil crisis hit in 1972. The Arabs got together, limited the amount of oil. Price of oil tripled, price of gasoline tripled, and everybody wanted small cars, and Ford didn't make any. GM didn't make any. And that's when Toyota and Honda got their inroads into selling cars in the United States, because all they had was small cars, and everybody started buying them. Right? The width. How many different categories of things do we have? Second, we have length. That's the number of different products that they sell. So, for example, Honda has a line of goods that are coupes, right? And within that line, they sell the Civic, the Accord, and the Maxima, right? So they have three. Their length is threefold. And then we have depth. So if you go and you buy a Civic, you can get a Civic with cloth seat, 3 kinds of cloth seats, leather seats with heated seats. You can get 3 different kinds of wheels. You can get floor mats. You can get different kind of radio systems. You can get the Sport Edition. That you can get spoilers on the car. So they have different variations of Civics. So products, width, length, and depth. I'll take a coffee break and then I'll go on. See, it's always helpful when you guys can't write fast enough so I can take a coffee break. But of course, my Baylor mug. It's Baylor Day. I love going into a restaurant on Baylor Day. I do this once a semester where I wear my green shoes. Because I'll walk into a restaurant and there's always this table of old ladies amazed that a man has enough courage to wear green shoes. And I always walk up to them. I look around, notice them looking at them, so I walk up and I always say, "These shoes are the bomb, aren't they?" And then they all laugh. Come on. There we go. So I want you guys to understand products. So to do that, I want to illustrate I want to illustrate this by talking about what is a Coke. So let's imagine that you're like me. You look at yourself and you say, I need to lose a little. Right? So I lost 12 pounds this summer. I need to lose 10 more. So my method is starvation. So banana for breakfast, an energy bar for lunch, and then some kind of Weight Watchers meal for dinner. It's terrible having to live that way. Not eating ice cream twice a day, which is what I like to do. But so I've lost some weight. The truth is, over the last 5 years, I've lost 238 pounds. I'll gain 30 and lose 10, and gain 15 and lose 20. I'll gain 5 and lose 10. I'm a yo-yo. I have gone between 190 and 240 3 or 4 times in the last 5 years. Right? Just yo-yo. So the way I handle it is I starve. Right? And you know, there's the freshman 10 and the sophomore 15, and then the junior just give up. So anyway, my technique is to starve. Let's say your technique is to exercise. Now, I really don't know why anybody would exercise. I wouldn't recommend it. It's dangerous. I have never gotten hurt sitting on the couch watching television. I've never been hurt walking my maximum of 50 steps. But the truth is, of course, I actually do believe in exercise. I think everybody ought to do it at least once a year for 5 minutes, at least. But let's say you decide you're gonna run. Now, why anybody would run is clearly beyond my ever comprehension. Because number 1, it's boring. Number 2, it hurts. And number 3, people get hurt doing that. But anyway, let's say you decide after class you're gonna go running. So before you run, you've got to change your clothes, right? I mean, you can't run in your shorts and your shoes and your shirt. You got to get a running shirt and a running shorts and then your special running shoes. Right? So you get dressed up, and then let's say you go out here and you get on Kingsley, right? Newly paved, smooth, sweet place to run. So you run along Kingsley and along the back of campus, and then you go down that road that goes to the athletic campus. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know what the name of the road is, but you go down that road. And then you come to the athletic campus and you turn left. So you run all the way around the back of the athletic campus. And then you're back onto Boulevard. And you start running up that hill. Now, you always thought that hill was not very big, but now you realize how steep it is because you've been running for the last 20 minutes. And you're running up that hill, and it's, of course, we're not sure that most of us would call it a run anymore. When you are in Kingsley, we'd say you are running, but suddenly now it's kind of like well, I'm not sure we even call it a fast walk, but you're running up the street, and every step you say to yourself, I need a Coke. I need a Coke. I need a Coke. I need a Coke. Because you're getting desperate because you're so thirsty. I mean, you've been wearing the stupid mask, right? Protecting the people who are out there running around you or not running. Anyway, you're obeying the rules, you got a mask on, and it's I gotta have Coke. I gotta have Coke. I gotta have Coke, right? So you're and you are so desperate for a Coke that when you get to the top of the hill, you've decided that you are going to risk your life. And yes, you're going to go into the Please You. Yeah, so you cross the street and you walk past the guy who's at the front of the store selling Coke, because that wasn't the kind you wanted. You want a Coca-Cola, and so you pass by the guy selling Coke at the front of the store, at the front door, and you walk in. Anybody you've ever been in there? You have. Brave people, right? Did you notice the sign behind the counter?
Yes.
It's a big white thing, and it's got handwritten in a magic marker, grape Kool-Aid and cherry Kool-Aid are behind the counter. Right? And some of you are saying, why do they keep the Kool-Aid behind the counter? It ain't that kind of Kool-Aid. So it's behind the counter with the shotgun and the AK-47 and the grenade. Anyway, so you walk past the counter with the cherry and the grape Kool-Aid of some sort and size. And then comes in a little package with 7 pills. No, with just 1 pill. Anyway, you walk past that and you walk to the back where the refrigerators are. And you reach in to grab a Coke and you get this. Now, I'll just tell you, this is a Coke, right? So it's the drink in here is Coke. Who would drink this that I've got right here? You would. You'd skydive too, wouldn't you?
I actually do want to skydive.
Yeah, there you go. See, somebody who's really brave on the risk of their life. So let me shake it up and let me open it for you. So I'll keep it and give my illustration. So anyway, now, is that cap the Coca-Cola cap? Yeah. How about, does it say Coca-Cola imprinted in the bottle?
It does.
Yeah, this is a Coke. I mean, the chemical stuff in here is Coke, right? How many are going to drink this from Fleece U? You might. There you go. You're even going to do that. You are a brave man. Of course, you went in the Fleece U in the first place. And, right. So, and of course, the guy who was at the front really thought you wanted some Coke. But you go in, you grab one of these. And it's like, most of us are like, I ain't buying the Fleece U. I ain't buying this. I would buy this in Kroger. So you put it back, and you go, or you take it up to the counter, and you say, hey, I want a Coke. It says, oh yeah, that's a Coke. It's like, I'm not going to believe this guy. He says, would you like some Kool-Aid with that? And so he says, yeah, the Coca-Cola guy, he just left. And you're like, no. So you go back and you put it back in the fridge and you walk out. And when you walk out, there in front of you is the big Coca-Cola truck. And the guy is grabbing the, that garage door like thing and pulling it down, you know what I'm talking about? And he's pulling it down, and you look in there, and there you see 5,000 of these things. So you walk up to the guy, and you say, hey, what's the deal with the labels? And he says, oh, and I should mention, when you were running up that hill, out of the peripheral of your vision, it never got to your consciousness, but out of the periphery of your vision, you saw that Coca-Cola truck. You don't know why you started wanting a Coke, because you generally don't like Coke. You generally would say, I want water, or I want a Powerade or a Gatorade. You wouldn't say, I want a Coke after running. But suddenly you were saying, as you were running, I want a Coke, I want a Coke, I want a Coke. That's a lot how some advertising works. It gets you subliminally. It reaches into your mind, but it doesn't consciously process, but suddenly you want a Coke. That's why Coke spends so much money on signs to advertise Coca-Cola, so that you want Coke. So anyway, you say to him, hey, what's the deal with the label? He says, oh man, they ran out of labels at the factory. You should have seen the plant manager. He was livid. He was so ticked. I mean, his face was as red as the normal Coke label. I mean, he was ticked, and he was so mad. And so he went in the office and he had the secretary print up these labels. And so they printed these up and they put these babies on. So those are Cokes. How many of you going back in to get a Coke into the Fleece U? Okay, now we got a couple. Right? So this is not a Coke. Now, it's got a Coke cap, it's got a Coke bottle. It's got Coca-Cola liquid in here, but this is not a Coke. Now imagine if you're standing there, right, you're about to walk away, and this big limousine drives up. And out of the limousine comes the CEO of Coca-Cola. Right? Now, some of you are thinking, if the CEO of Coca-Cola gets out of this limousine to please you, he's not stopping there to go in and get a Coca-Cola. He's stopping there so the guy outside who sold Coke can, oh, anyway. All right, so anyway, let's say the CEO of Coca-Cola does go into the please you, right? Or Quick Trip, and he sees these. What do you think he's going to do? Who? So they're going to fire that plant manager. Now, is he going to fire the plant manager? Of course, he's going to have every single one of these pulled, right? And brought back to plant. Everywhere in town. But that plant manager, is he firing that plant manager because the plant manager ran out of labels? You know, that's a gross mistake. That's a really serious mistake for Coca-Cola to run out of labels, right? And if the plant manager let that happen, I mean, the plant manager doesn't count labels. He's got somebody else who counts labels. But he's ultimately responsible for losing labels. And will they fire him? Probably not. But are we going to have a very serious discussion about the way you run this plant? Oh, yeah. I mean, anybody can make a mistake. But if it happened twice, he's gone. Right? I don't mind if I've had somebody work for me, they make a mistake. I don't mind. Everybody makes mistakes. I make lots of mistakes. But make the same mistake twice after we talk about it, that ain't happening. Right? Learn from your mistakes. So, why is he going to get fired? He's going to get fired because he does not understand what a Coke is. This is a Coke. This is not a Coke. And CEO of Coca-Cola would fire the plant manager because the plant manager doesn't understand that this is not a Coke and we don't sell this. Under any circumstances, we do not sell this. This is not a Coke. This is a Coke. Now, if this is not a Coke, but this is a Coke, even though the chemical composition is the same, we better understand what a product is. Right? And a product is a bundle. So it's like it's a package with string that ties it up. It's a bundle. It's a bundle of physical, service, and symbolic elements that satisfy customer wants and needs. It's a bundle of physical, service, and symbolic attributes that satisfy customer wants and needs. A bundle of physical, service, and symbolic attributes that satisfy customer wants and needs. Not just physical, but service. Does it matter where you get a Coke? Anybody rather have a Coke in a restaurant than in a bottle? Yeah, because they put more, generally restaurants put more the Coke sauce in there and less carbonation. You go into a place to get a Coke and they have a lot of extra carbonation and a little water, and it's a little water, you know, it's just got too much carbonation. So I'm not going to get Coke there anymore. Right? That's why the movie theater Cokes are really good, because they use extra syrup. Right? So does it matter if somebody smiles when they hand me the Coke? Well, it may matter whether the Coke's cold or not. Right? Chick-fil-A. What do they say to you when they hand you your order? My pleasure is my pleasure to serve. Every single freaking time, it's been my pleasure to serve. Why? Because that's part of the service. It's part of the product. And if somebody doesn't say it to you, you notice. Now, I will throw this out at you. If somebody treats you wrong in a store, it's not their fault. It's the manager's fault. Because the manager did not train them well enough to serve you well enough. That's so a good manager makes sure that service quality is equal. So Chick-fil-A always has their people say, it's been my pleasure to serve you, because it standardizes that service and makes the quality good. It's a bundle of physical service, because if I don't feel right if I go to Chick-fil-A and they don't say it's been my pleasure to serve. That's pretty petty of me, but it's not Chick-fil-A if they don't say it. But a physical service and symbolic attributes that satisfy customer wants and needs. So Coca-Cola has this color red label with a white letter Coca-Cola in the trademarked Coca-Cola font that that is not on your computer, because it's illegal for it to be on your computer, because Coca-Cola owns this font. And only Coca-Cola uses it. Yeah. This is a Coke. Physical, service, and symbolic attributes designed to satisfy customer wants and needs. So Coca-Cola stopped understanding that once. Back in the 80s, people started drinking more Pepsi than they did Coke. So Pepsi and Coke had really bad commercials in the 80s. And Pepsi had really, really good commercials in the 80s. I'll show you some later. Michael Jackson and the Pepsi commercials, they were just tremendous. And so Coke went down. And Pepsi did all these blind taste tests. Coke or Pepsi, which one you like. And most people like Pepsi. Right, so like 55%. So Pepsi sales go up. So Coke decided they needed to change their formula. So they took out some carbonation and put more sugar in it. Right? And they called it New Coke. And they got rid of Coke and brought out New Coke. Right? 24 hours after they came out with New Coke, 1 million people in the United States had joined and signed up a petition to join the anti-New Coke League. 1 million people before the internet, long before the internet. But it was, people were mad. They were pouring Coke out on the streets. The nightly news would have people with bottles of Coke pouring New Coke out. I won't drink this stuff. It's terrible. And they brought the president of the New Coke League into the 11 o'clock, it was called Nightline with Ted Koppel, and everybody watched it. It was the #1 rated program at 11 o'clock. Everybody watched it. And they brought him out there and he came to rant and rail against Coca-Cola. And they put 4 cups in here with black liquid in it. And they said, one of these is Coke, one of them's Diet Coke, one of them's Pepsi, and one of them is RC Cola. We'd like you to tell us which is which. Now they did that because they know that only 30% of you people in the United States have their palate, their tongue, that can actually taste the difference between Coke and Pepsi if both of them sit there for about 5 minutes. Because then the carbonation goes away. And our taste buds just aren't good enough to tell the difference. How many can tell the difference? Yeah, almost everybody says they can. And I'll tell you what I've done before in this class is I've put 5 cups up here and let people drink it. We're in COVID now. And sure enough, everybody says they can before they taste, and only about 30% of the class could tell the difference correctly. Couldn't tell the difference. He tried for 45 minutes, and he wanted to talk, and they said, no, we're not going to ask you any questions, not going to let you talk until you tell us which one's which. He couldn't tell the difference. Oh, but Coke had messed up because they didn't understand that the product wasn't the liquid. This is the product. And the symbols are just important to people, right? Even if they can't taste the difference, they want Coke. So now, of course, Coke advertises that they locked the formula into the vault in Atlanta, right? Now, let me ask you, if the formula is locked in a vault and nobody sees it. How do they make it? Right? There are people all over the world who know the formulas of Coke because they got to make it every day. Right? But it is a great marketing gimmick. And people swear by it. Right? That this is, and okay, let's be honest, Coca-Cola has changed its formula a bunch. They just don't tell anybody anymore. Right? The only time they actually told people was in 85 when they came out with New Coke. Right? I mean, clearly the first Coke had cocaine in it. So if they're using the original formula, so after about 2 months, they came back with Coca-Cola Classic. So they had New Coke and Coca-Cola Classic. And after about 6 months, they got rid of New Coke because nobody's buying it. And I tasted it, and it was a lot better than Coke. I mean, it was a lot better than Coke. Tastes like Pepsi. So it was good. This is a Coke. A product is a bundle of physical, service, and symbolic attributes designed to satisfy customer wants and needs. Now, let me give you this in terms of Pepsi. So Pepsi's got the blue bottle, right? The blue can. Now, everywhere in the world, Coca-Cola is the #1 selling soft drink, except in China. And China, well, I went there in 2008, right, a month before the Olympics. And at that time, 90% of the people in China drank Coke, drank Pepsi and didn't drink Coke. It's the only place in the world. And that's because back in the 70s, when Nixon went to China to start trading with China, the president of Pepsi went with him. And they made a deal with China that Pepsi would be the only soda sold in China. And so Pepsi was the only one, and Coke didn't get in the country until about 20 years later. So Coke had about in at 89, at 2008, had about 7% of the total market share for soft drinks, and Pepsi just swamped those. And I remember walking down the street, and it seemed like every house had turned the bottom floor of their house into a store. Even if a lot of them were about from here to the door, about 20 feet by length and about 10 feet wide. But on all of them, you looked at the shelves and they had blue cans everywhere. So you just walked up and said, you're pointing at a blue can, or a lot of them speak English. You say, I want a Pepsi. No problem, they give you a blue can. So 2008, China was running the Olympics. And to honor the Chinese in winning the Olympics, Pepsi sponsored the Olympics, paying $2 billion to be the exclusive soft drink sponsor. And they decided that they would make a special can to celebrate China having the Olympics. And so they made it China Red. Let me share my screen. Hold on. China Red. So suddenly the Chinese walked by these stores wanting a Pepsi, and they didn't have any Pepsis. This is a Pepsi, and this is a Coke. You can see it. I turned it this way so you can see that this is the Coke. But if it's turned this way, you can't tell which is Coke and which is Pepsi. So the Chinese went by wanting to buy a Pepsi and said, well, there weren't any Pepsis, so give me one of those. They tasted exactly like a Pepsi. Of course, it was a Pepsi, but they thought it was Coke. They lost 20% market share during the Olympics. So Pepsi went down to is now about 77% of the market. Lost 20% because they didn't understand that this isn't a Coke, this is a Coke. They didn't understand what the product was. So Pepsi screwed up, right? Now, another thing that's interesting about the Olympics, Pepsi paid $2 billion to be the official sponsor of the Olympics. Coca-Cola rented every billboard in China. Actually didn't think about it. About 4 years in advance, Coca-Cola rented all the billboards. So they put Coke everywhere. So when you watch the Olympics, and they showed the outside of the venue, like the bird nest, where they had the opening ceremonies. When you looked at that, you thought Coca-Cola was the official sponsor because you got Coca-Cola right there above the bird nest. Oh, slick. So Pepsi really got hurt because they didn't realize what is a product. So let's think about this product next in terms of Clorox. Clorox has Clorox Stain Out, Clorox Toilet Boil Cleaner. We can see that's a different line of business. But look at this. They own Liquid Plumber and Glad bags and Brita water filters and Kingsford charcoal and Casey Masterpiece dressing. Is like, so they've expanded their product mix. So when we think through the product mix decision, we have to say, the firm asks itself, do I need to change the length, the width, or the breadth? Do I need to have more different varieties? Do I need to go into a different line? Okay. And there are three key terms that are important here, right? A line extension, a product extension, and a brand extension. Now, what's a line? I said it earlier in class. What's a line? Oh, well, so much for my teaching. It's a category. So a line extension is when we take a good product and we introduce a new product that is related to the old product, but in a new category. So for example, Coca-Cola introduces Powerade. Well, those are not necessarily, that's clearly, it's not like Coke coming up with Cherry Coke. This is in a new category. This is the energy drink category, all right? So, you know, Coca-Cola has #1 selling water in the country, Dasani. That's a Coca-Cola product. Now that is a line extension because water and Coca-Cola are different, right? But they're related because they're drinks. And that is a line extension. A product extension has two different kinds of definitions. A lot of people will talk about a product extension in terms of offering an ancillary piece of equipment. So Dell Computers offers printers, and they have Dell Ink for Dell printers. So those are related, #1, to the current product, but they're ancillary products that go with it. Okay, so if you go out and buy a printer, they may not include a cord. So you buy a cord, and Dell sells cords. Originally, they sold the cord with the printer, and then they realized they can make more money if you have to buy a cord separately. So they made that a product extension. The other term, or the other way that the term product extension is used, is when we talk about a new version of an old product. So Coke comes out with Cherry Coke. That's a product extension. It's not Coke, but it's pretty close to Coke because it's got Coke. It's mostly Coke. We'll put a little cherry flavor in there. That is a product extension. And then you have a brand extension. And here, the brand becomes so valuable and so loved by people that we make a product that's not even related to it. But we use the name. So for example, I went to work at AT&T in 1990. And the 1990 Super Bowl, which of course happens in 1991, right? It used to be in the last week of January, first week of February. Now it's last week of February, first week of March. But so we're coming up on the 2020 Super Bowl, which will happen in 2021. So they have the Super Bowl for 1990 Super Bowl, and AT&T, I remember watching it, they had a 30-second commercial where they introduced the new AT&T Universal Credit Card. It was a Visa. So AT&T's name on a credit card. 30-second commercial. They figured they would sell some during the Olympic or during the Super Bowl because they had the commercial. So they had 26 operators standing by to take orders for AT&T's new Universal Card. They had 2 million people call trying to buy the AT&T Universal Card, called during the Super Bowl. So in 3 months, it was the #1 credit card in the United States. Now, I was new with AT&T, and I was on their LCP Leadership Development Program, which means here, you know, they identify their new people, and they say these are the people who have potential to become executives one day. And so I was on that thing as the first level, and so we got to do special things that other new hires didn't get to do. And one of the things we did is me and the group went down to Florida, to Jacksonville, to AT&T Universal Card headquarters. And we met with the president of the division. And that was really cool. So we're going, it's the #1 credit card in the United States. It's only been going for a year. And so we went down there, and it was a massive operation. And we go in there, we talk to the president, and he was so downcast. And it's like, you know, we understand. You know, they told us about all the good things that are happening. He said, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, you don't seem very excited. He says, no, we're about to go bankrupt. And we're all stunned. Why are you going bankrupt? Well, we're the #1 card in the country, but 97% of our customers pay their bills every month. You know, credit card makes us money on stupid people who go out and buy a 7-foot large screen TV, and then on credit and 19.9% interest rate, and they pay for it over 5 years, and they actually spend 3.5 times as much for the television than if they had paid cash, right? So they depend on people like that. Well, the AT&T Universal Card, there were a tremendous amount of people back then, your grandparents, who didn't trust credit cards. My parents had never had a credit card, but they saw that commercial and they said, if AT&T has a credit card, I trust AT&T. So all these old fogies got a universal credit card and started using credit and paying their bills every month. And a year after I was there, they closed the division and went bankrupt. Weren't making any money. Lost billions, right? So think about it. How about a Walt Disney credit card? Could you see that happening? Yeah, they have one. Mickey on the picture of Mickey Mouse on your credit card. So you pull it out and somebody, oh, you got Mickey Mouse on the credit card. I've got some friends who, they've got 2 kids, they're young, and they go to Disneyland or Disney World, whichever one it is in Florida, twice a year. Spend about $15,000 a year of their combined $60,000 income going to Disneyland. And they've got a condo that they're paying off for the next 30, 40 years. They've, they're just, the debt is, I think they've got $200,000 worth of debt just from Disneyland. And, you know, it's crazy. And they use their Disneyland credit card. And Disney loves them. Right? A brand extension. So I take the brand and I put it in a completely different area. Now, you can go too far with this. So, for example, Colgate came out with Colgate dinner meals. Now, I'm sorry. That is a really stupid idea. That's stupid. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't have come out with nice meals, because the meals tasted good. They couldn't have come out with, but don't use the name Colgate on it, because the brand doesn't extend there. Here it is, Cheetos Lip Balm. That was a product that lasted about 6 months. Right? Do you really want to be tasting Cheetos all the time? Now, does Cheetos have some really good advertisement? They come out with Cheetos popcorn, right? Last semester I had 5 students, when it came up to the test, they said, can't touch that. Oh, come on. You guys don't watch the commercials? Oh, that's a great Super Bowl commercial. I can't do anything because I can't touch it because I got Cheetos stuff all over my fingers. You guys are out of it. Anyway, this was a really stupid idea. That was a bad brand extension. Notice how it's a brand extension, because this lip balm does not relate to food. Right? Now, we do a line extension. We go from Cheetos to Cheetos popcorn. That's a very good idea. Right? So, where's your product headed? What's your message going to be? What are you going to emphasize? What do you modify? What do you extend? What do you enhance? How are you going to promote that product? So I need a vision of where the product is and where I want the product to go, right? So what do I want the customer experience to be? 2 years ago, we had the global operations manager for Burger King come speak to Business Club, right? We don't do Business Club this year because you can't have 50 people in a room. But so he came and he spoke to us, and he had been promoted and placed as the global operations senior vice president with the task of getting Burger King customer service to equal Chick-fil-A. And you know what I think? You better go get your resume ready, because you're not going to be able to do it. Chick-fil-A gets honor roll students working in Chick-fil-A. Burger King gets high school dropouts who don't care and give a rip whether the burger is cooked or not. All right? So are you going to be able to compete with Chick-fil-A on that kind of service? Well, that'll have to be a 10-year plan. You'll have to change your managers, and you'll have to change your incentive programs and how much you pay and the work environment. That is a long haul change. All right. So what's my vision? And I got one more slide, but I just flat don't have time to do it. So next time, I'm going to throw in my next slide and then go to next time's actual topic that I'm supposed to be talking about. Okay? So you guys have a great week. You know what I'm going to do instead? I'm going to come up with a 5-minute video and put it for you guys to watch for that last little piece. Okay? That way, next time, I talk about what I need to talk about. Cool? Guys have a great one. Yes?
Do we need to turn in our group name?
Yeah, you need to, give me your 2-sentence product description and who's on your team. And you guys out there who are watching, email it to me. Guys have a great one.
I didn't write down.